to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome to another episode of This Week in Marketing. I'm your host, Sam Wheeler, and in the studio today we have my co-host, Kevin Speck.
Hello.
And we have two great guests today, Nick Apostolopoulos of 619 Vodka and Les Collegian. Sorry.
You're a true professional.
Les Collegian of Jacob Tyler Branding Agency. Really, we have a really great show today about branding and bringing products to market and all that good stuff. A few announcements, a little housekeeping stuff. This Thursday, we have Mingle Bells, which is a partner event with SDX and AMA and a few other groups. That is Thursday nights from 6:30 to 8:30, I believe. And also, if you are listening and you'd like to volunteer, we have the Art of Marketing Call for Volunteers is out right now. It's a great conference, April 5th at the Del Mar Marriott, I believe. So it's going to be really fun. A lot of great speakers. And Nick and Les, if you guys have any interest in speaking as well, they're also taking applications for speakers too. We can talk about that later. But anyways, we have a great show. Kevin's going to lead us off here. Branding, yeah. So maybe we start with some introductions first.
Yeah. Les, I want to start with you. I know our companies have done a lot of good work in the past. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about Jacob Tyler Agency and everything you do.
Sure. My background is a designer, and then I have a master's in marketing. I took some design jobs and worked my way up to creative director. And once there, I ended up for a large agency, and I ended up going on my own. So in 2000, I founded Vivid Commerce. Actually, I was looking to get some work. I was getting headhunted to go to other agencies. And then in 2003, my son was born. His name is Jacob Tyler Collegian. I rebranded to Jacob Tyler and ended up growing the company from there. So we've been in business now for 18 years in San Diego. We are a full-service agency. We do what we're really good at in-house, and we've learned through a lot of mistakes to do what we're not good at out-of-house and hire the right people to make that happen. But our core expertise is brand development, just literally building brands from the ground up, and then the marketing strategy afterwards.
Great. And you guys are based in La Jolla, right?
No. Actually, well, we were downtown for a while. We moved our office recently to Mission Valley. So actually, we've got one more year on that lease, and then it'll be to another location.
Awesome. All right. And Nick, over to you. Tell us a little bit more about 619 Vodka.
So 619 Vodka is a local spirits brand. We've been around since 2012, actually. Like I said, we're a local spirits brand. We distill locally. We specialize in vodka and infused vodkas. That's kind of our niche. There's a lot of products out there on the market, so we kind of had to figure out a way to differentiate and be different from the crowd and do something cool and new. And that was my biggest thing, is trying to figure out what we could do that nobody's ever done before to make, like I said, there's a million vodkas out there, so it was all about trying to do something different.
So being in San Diego, I know when a lot of people think of San Diego, it's beer, like heavy IPAs, maybe pale ales.
The Napa of beer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Napa beer.
It actually is. There's tours that come here and stuff for beers.
No, literally, it is
the
Napa of beer.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I want to know, what's the market like in, I'm not a big vodka drinker. What's the market like here in San Diego?
It's a big drinking town all around, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, even with our new tasting room in North Park, we get a lot of people that come in and just want beer and want IPAs. When we're out of IPA, people get annoyed. It's really kind of strange. But San Diego is all, it's all about that, the West Coast IPA, right? Yep. So, it's an interesting town to do this in, because like you said, it's all about beer, but there are a lot of people who drink spirits. It's, you have a lot of craft cocktail bars too, Craft and Commerce and all those places that do craft cocktails, and that scene is growing a lot in San Diego. You find even, there's a couple of places that I would consider more nightclubby, True North and U31 and those kind of places that are introducing craft cocktail menus because people want it. So people are starting to kind of learn about it and get up to speed on it and ask for more local spirits and things like that. We're still nowhere near where the beer guys are, but hopefully it'll get there.
Awesome.
Are you seeing the trend go across the border too in Tijuana? Like in the beer scene's kind of growing over there as well as the cocktail scene and the spirit scene growing there too?
Are you not an expert in Tijuana spirits?
Well, I don't. Yeah,
I
don't
want to make sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I know that a lot of breweries are popping up over there. I haven't heard of any distilleries popping up south of the border. And honestly, I don't know. My guess is that would be a little more difficult just because of the import laws and whatnot. A beer probably flows a little easier back and forth. I don't really know the answer. To that.
I think one of the key differentiators was 619. And look, Nick started with a vodka. He started to do infusions. What the real big deal now for him is that he's opened a distillery, and there's very few of those, and that's a real differentiator in San Diego. There's one. Basically, one other distillery is Cutwater Spirits, or maybe a couple more, but there's a few more. But Cutwater Spirits obviously is a monster, and so Nick is truly local. And the other thing about 619 is everything in the restaurant is local. So not only is his vodka made there, but the other alcohol that he serves, whether it's a whiskey or another brand, it's a local brand.
Yeah.
So he's totally repping the 619 to that point of branding, right? He's sticking true to the local appeal and not wavering.
Yeah, and to go back to your beer question too, the weird part is there are actually breweries in town who are now trying to get into the spirits business, and the Cutwater's a great example because they were originally Ballast Point, right? Ballast Point beer had Ballast Point spirits. When Ballast Point beer got bought out, they didn't want the spirits brand, but they'd already grown that to the level where it spun off. But other places, like I don't know if you guys remember Manzanita Brewing, they opened up a distillery and then caved. They went under. So, and now I've heard Thorn Street is working on putting a brewery down in their Barrio Logan location. So, I mean, a distillery. So I feel like everyone's kind of starting to look at this like, oh, okay, this is a place we should be. A lot of the breweries are thinking about it because they already do the first half of the process, making beer. But it is a totally different animal.
So other than the giant that is beer in San Diego, what are some of the big obstacles you've seen getting a localized vodka distillery up and running?
Money.
Well, yeah, money. I mean, money is one. The biggest thing I think is that depending on where you go in the county, the cities don't support it. The city of San Diego definitely doesn't support. I mean, it probably took me an extra year to get open just because of the hurdles I had to go through with the city and the zoning and all that kind of stuff. Cities like Vista and Chula Vista, ironically, are more favorable, and Spring Valley, but it really depends on where you go. And I'm guessing that the breweries had to go through this too, but the city just doesn't. Now if you want to open a brewery, they go, yeah. They know everything about it, and they know what it like. But for us, for example, they told us we couldn't put floor drains in when every other distillery has a floor drain and needs floor drains, and we finally gave up on that battle. But that's the biggest thing is I feel like there's just not the support from the cities that there is with beer. Everyone, beer. It's a beer town right now.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. So how have your two companies been working together over the past however long?
Well, Nick and I actually, remember I was telling you about that large agency that I left to go on my own. We worked at that same agency together. So that was about 30 years ago, actually, this year. Holy crap.
You two go way back.
Yeah, so we go way back. That was 98 and 99. So we've just been friends ever since. But when Nick was just spawning off this idea in his house, so we've been kind of talking about it ever since then, and I've just helped him do the labels and a lot of the design work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, from literally just sitting at a bar drinking and drawing on napkins and trying to figure out the logo and coming up with do we use numbers for 619? Do we use letters? Yeah, so from the very beginning, Les was involved with this.
Awesome. Sounds good. So, Les, I want to get more from you about branding. As a veteran in the industry, in your own words, how do you define the importance of branding?
Well, I mean, it's mission critical. I mean, I would say that the simplest way to say it is brand is perception. So how does your customer perceive your product or service? And I mean, I think a simple analogy, and I was just reading about this and I saw a commercial, but really great. This will be easy for people to understand. It's Payless shoes. So a really smart agency, I'd love to shake this creative director's hand. They came up with an idea where they took over an Armani store in Santa Monica. They made it look like a Louis Vuitton type style, Jimmy Choo, like, wide open space, soft lighting. And they called it Palessi, Palessi. They invited a bunch of social influencers, magazine, a lot of press, and literally pawned off the shoes as this Italian brand, and people were paying $400 to $600 for these shoes, and they were Payless shoes for $20. Oh. So at the end of it, when they were told, that it was Payless. Obviously, they
brilliant.
felt duped and a little bit probably embarrassed.
Yeah, but it's still brilliant marketing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And so Payless obviously refunded their money and gave them the free shoes. But the moral of the story is that the perception of having that store and an Italian name brand made for a higher quality product that someone would pay $400 for, and that was Payless's whole point. Like, it's the same shoe, right? Mm-hmm. Or how they're trying to make you perceive Payless, and so they're trying to invigorate their brand. So again, brand is 100% perception, and so the more you can get your customer to believe in what you're trying to do, whether it's your core values, your product, whatever that is, the better you are.
So can we rebrand as like Gragusi?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sell really expensive vodka?
Yeah. Or go to, like, what's the Rancho Santa Fe zip code? I mean, we'll just do that one.
Oh, yeah.
So if you could pinpoint it, if there were 2 or 3 elements that go into building a perception, what would you say they are?
Well,
regardless of the brand or the business.
I don't know if there's 2 to 3 elements that you could do that. I'd say that the number one mistake, when we speak with clients, is they want to just dive in heads first without laying the foundation of what their brand is about. And that can lead to a little schizophrenia moving forward with marketing collateral and other things like that.
Nice. Yeah. So I'll have to take you guys out. Sorry, we have about 15 seconds left. I think that's a good segment into the second part of the show here, building a brand identity, which we'll talk about all that good stuff. One final announcement before we end the show is Mingle Bells is Thursday. Please sign up, and if you make a purchase, make sure to mark that you got the ticket from the AMA San Diego. This is This Week in Marketing on WSRadio.com. We'll be back in a sec.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children.
After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The WorldLink program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine, and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back to This Week in Marketing with the San Diego AMA and WSRadio.com. We've got a great show. We have Nick Apostolopoulos and Les Collegian in the studio. We're talking about branding. Building a brand identity is coming up now. Really excited for it, so let's take it away.
Yeah, so just to kick this segment off, I want to start with two examples of pretty well-known vodka brands. I want to compare UV Vodka and Sky Vodka. Now, starting with UV Vodka, when you look on their website, you're immediately met with the tagline, "Mix in the moment," followed by a headline, "Everything's better when there's a together. Create a stir wherever, whenever with UV." And the image in the background is young adults clearly at a party, and they're holding red Solo cups. And now to compare the Sky Vodka website, you're met with a tagline, "Smarter, smoother, extraordinary." And I know now they're doing a campaign with John Cena. So the imagery in the background is John Cena sitting at a classy bar with a bunch of fancy mixed drinks around him. There's the martini glass, looks like something James Bond would drink out of. And so I want to get down. This is a perfect example of how you can create an identity with very similar products. Now, like I said, I'm not a vodka connoisseur, but to me they taste pretty similar and they're pretty relative in price. But there's a very, very clear difference in the overall message, look, and really just the intended customer they have in mind in terms of the branding. So the difference really comes down to the buzzwords and the imagery. So I'm curious, from a branding perspective, how does one go about formulating and establishing these buzzwords and imagery just to convey their brand identity?
We tried to get John Cena, by the way, but Les couldn't negotiate the deal. So
we got The Rock instead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of a loaded question. So really, in my opinion, in kind of going back to an earlier question, when it comes to the elements of building a brand, you want to start with a foundation, which is your brand story, your positioning, your messaging. What's the look and feel? Obviously, a logo, color palette, et cetera. I mean, in the examples that you're bringing up, I mean, there's some irony going on here, right? So Sky Vodka is known as a cheap vodka. I mean, it's pretty much a call vodka. It's like a rail vodka. Yeah. If you're, so. With that type of marketing, obviously they're looking to hopefully up their game a little bit and become, more classy. Although John Cena is an odd choice for me, but I mean, he's, clearly a celebrity and clearly Sky has the money to do that. If you talk about the UV Vodka, I don't know that brand very well, so I don't know. I can't really speak to who their market is, but
it's a lower end brand too. The one comment I would have about that too, though, is that their websites aside, one of the reasons for me in my brain as a consumer why these guys are kind of on the lower end of the scale is packaging, right? I mean, especially in this world, that's a huge part of what the brand is, and you can have John Cena in a bar with a lot of hot girls behind him, but the packaging does not scream to me upper end vodka, right? So
they're known
to
for
me
the
they have
blue.
a mismatch, right? Yeah, and so that's almost mismatched. Yeah. Marketing there. So.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about UV, I mean, it sounds to me like their market is obviously younger. It's a skewed younger market, probably 21 to 30, right? 18 if you're in Mexico, I guess. Yeah. But I would say that the concept of everything to better when there's together, create a stir wherever, and they're having red Solo cups. I mean, that brings me back to college. So I mean, so certainly they're trying to hit that market. But if you're between like a local and national campaign, which was I think what you guys were talking about, that comes down to really just how it's marketed. And with Nick, I mean, obviously you started, start local, maybe move national. I'm sure you aspire to be a national brand, but local first. And that's why it's 619.
And I mean, we get a lot of, I get a lot of questions about that too. Hey, you guys are 619 and how, so does that mean you're just going to be a local brand? How do you plan to play nationally if that ever is an option? And for me, I don't think, I think of it the other way around. I look at it as first of all, what we do is different in that we use a lot of local ingredients for our infusions and stuff like that. So that plays very well to the local crowd. But I think even nationally going, oh, hey, I can get this vodka that's made in San Diego and it's made using local ingredients there. I think that story can translate nationally too. As you know, even the branding is it's kind of hyper localized, and that obviously our name is 619. But there's a vodka out there called 42 Degrees, and I ask people all the time if they know what that means, and they don't. But it's because they're at latitude 42. They're a New Zealand brand, but nobody cares. They still buy. The numbers don't. It doesn't preclude someone from buying it. Going, that's what it's about, New Zealand. Oh, okay. Well, I'm not interested.
Well, we've always talked about you becoming more national in the sense of that 619 could play that way because look, I'm from the East Coast, and anyone who asks me where I live, if I say San Diego, they're like, "Oh man, that's the best place, best weather ever." You know, so people do. It's a tourist town. People aspire to be here. They want to be here. So, you know, maybe they could get that feeling if they visited or not that they're living a little bit of San Diego.
We've had bars in Denver reach out to us saying, "Hey, can we get your product here?" And we're not available out there yet. But my first question was why, and they're like, "Oh, because we lived out there, or we know people that live out there, and you know, so when we're busy with the day, when we're done with the day of skiing, we like to come back to the bar and sit and watch surf videos. And what's better with that than drinking a vodka that comes from San Diego, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So it can play nationally.
And so that's the story we're ultimately going to try to tell.
Yeah. That's really interesting. You're trying to keep it local, but even as times expand, that's really interesting. I'm a big fan of bourbon, and I grew up in Iowa, and Iowa is recently becoming a hub for bourbon because all those farmers are realizing that we can't make a lot of money in ethanol, and still to this day, I've been in San Diego for almost 4 years now, and I still ship in my favorite bourbon from Iowa.
Oh, cool. Which is what brand?
Cedar Ridge.
Okay.
Very good. It's about $45 a bottle. I'm not going to turn this into an advertisement here.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting about keeping it local, even when it translates.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to building out your imagery and buzzwords and everything like that, how do you go about doing that to tailor to a San Diego audience?
I mean, honestly, we've gone around and around with it. I mean, the brand's been around for 8 years now, so it's gone through a lot of evolution. I mean, early iterations of our designs had the San Diego skyline in the background and things like that. That stuff's kind of slowly gone away. For me, it's more about. I'll give you an example. Very early on, when we were drawing stuff up before we designed a bottle. One of the iterations had palm trees on it, and I was like, both of us kind of looked at it and said, "Yeah, this looks like it's something for a gift shop, not a brand, right?" So the brand is.
It was too obvious too. It was too obvious. We might as well put dolphins and waves on it,
right?
Too.
And flip flops or something, right? So it's kind of we've kind of pushed the imagery around the brand itself is just much more clean and simple. And 619, the bottle's very clean. There's not a lot of. In fact, there's not really anything on the bottle except for the thing in the back that says, made in San Diego to really pin it down to San Diego. For me, more what makes it local now is the story about it, that we do the infusions, that we get our rose petals from San Marcos, that we get peppers from Fallbrook, that we work with, local coffee roasters to do our coffee and stuff like that. So it's more about the story than it is about the imagery around the branding. Even the photos and things like that. Like, I mean, I suppose eventually, if we have the money, we'll do one of those shoots where you see the bottle sitting on the sand at the beach or something. But right now, even our imagery is not like that. It's mostly just the story that makes it local.
So how do you come up with sort of the non-visual aspects of the branding too? Like when people are in the distillery, and like how do you guys? Is that part of your branding as a whole too? Like the experience of being inside.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, it's been a little difficult because obviously we don't have the money that the big brands have, right? Or even somebody like Cutwater we were talking about. So it's been actually really hard to tell that story over time. Now that we have the distillery, that the laws have changed, and you can come in and see the space, it makes it easier to tell that story. You can come kind of look in the back and see what we're doing. But I'll admit to you, it's a really hard story to tell.
And we're telling the story, Nick, just simply by only serving those products. I mean, we're not. Right. In other words, we're not dressing up the interior of the place to look like San Diego and putting up surfboards and palm trees, right? Right. So we're really telling the story.
No, and to Les's point, I forgot about that part, which is So we only, it's interesting because a lot of people that walk into the distillery. Two things. Don't know we're a distillery. They just think it's a bar. And then number two, when they go, "Hey, I want a shot of Jameson," we go, "Oh, we don't carry that. We carry all these other local brands." And thankfully, there are about 14, 15 distilleries in San Diego right now. So we've got 8 or 9 whiskeys. We've got a bunch of gins. We've got a bunch of rums. So we can still have a full-service bar. But if you come in and ask for something national, we don't have it. And it's odd because the first reaction is, "Oh, really? Wow. Okay. Well, what do you have?" and kind of in a condescending way, like, well, what am I going to drink then? But after you tell them the story for a few minutes, they go, oh, wow, that's really cool. Oh, okay, yeah, let me try that gin, or let me try your vodka, or let me try whatever. And so, unfortunately, it's kind of a one-at-a-time training, but that's what we have to do. And I feel like, in some ways, that's what the beers had to do. I think when, 15, 20 years ago, when somebody said, wait, what? There's a local, and it's an IPA, and what? I'm guessing there was part of that.
Stone had a real hard time getting out there. I mean, because everyone was drinking Bud Light,
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's really interesting about the story and how you really promote the story as the brand. Because I'm going back to the Cedar Ridge example. Like when I take a sip of my favorite bourbon, it tastes like home. That instantly gives it that home. And then now that you're advertising the story, all local products, you're creating that perception when they take a sip of the 619 vodka. This tastes like San Diego.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. So going back to Les, I want to turn this over to you for a little bit. When it comes to we're probably going to have to pick this up in the next segment, but I just want to start when it comes to creating that imagery and the taglines and everything like that. How do you go about making that transferable across digital channels, print channels, or even native channels?
Well, I mean, again, that's kind of a loaded question because there's so many. I don't know where the saying came from. There's so many ways to skin that cat. I guess it's an odd saying. Come to think of it, but ultimately, we're not thinking about the channels as much as we are making sure that the foundation of the brand story is right. Because once we know we have that and we believe in it, then we can create the campaigns around it. And certainly we have to be flexible, nimble. I mean, if the market changes, if something happens, we have to be able to adapt. But ultimately, we're doing our best to just create a story that'll resonate.
Great. We'll pick this up in a sec. This is This Week in Marketing from AMA San Diego on WSRadio.com.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McCullough brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcCullough.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McCulloughe. ChristopherMcCullough.com.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Kenja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of Universal Talk Laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal Talk Laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kenja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at KenjaDixon.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back to This Week in Marketing. We are talking branding, and this next segment's going to be pretty good, I think. We're talking about getting the word out. All right, what do? You've got the foundation built. You've got all the imagery, everything like locked in. Now, what do you do next, I think, right? So, Kevin, can you take it away?
Yeah. It was interesting. We were just talking over the break about, Nick, you're getting a website up and running, but you also talked about the importance of Facebook and Google My Business and other channels playing an even bigger role than maybe the website would. What's kind of your experience with that?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think people, I'm obviously not the first one to say this, but people are more on their phones. They're not on the computers anymore, and so they just want very basic, quick information. And so between Yelp and Google and Facebook, I think people don't rely on websites very much anymore. I mean, when we were starting out, we didn't really have a physical location, right? We had a distillery, but you couldn't really come visit. There was nothing you could do there. So the original website was more just about pure branding, right? Just trying to say, hey, we're gluten free, we're this, we're that, and but even then, trying to drive people to that wasn't the easiest thing in the world. And now that we have a physical location, the minute you search us, that's what you find. And so people now more care about the hours and where you are and all that kind of stuff and the menu. And then secondarily, are they trying to dive in and care about your story? Most of the time, they're just trying to find someplace to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm finding that I feel like, it's always been that way, but you have to have a presence on Yelp and Google and Yellow Pages and Facebook and TripAdvisor. I would have never thought of my brand as being something that needs to be on TripAdvisor, and now it is, right? So it's kind of changing the way people seek information is definitely changing the way we push it out.
Well, the landscape, certainly I will say, I used to speak for Google, and they taught me a ton about just the metrics and how that all works. But right now, even over 60% of search is mobile. So you're right; they're not really going directly to your site, because when you're searching, the Google address comes up, and
right.
And mostly when you're on mobile, I would say, and this is completely speculative, but you're searching for directions. What's
right.
the phone number? What's the address, so I can click it into Google Maps and get there?
Right. Presumably, by the
Yelp
time
for
they're
ratings.
searching on their phone, they already know about us.
Yeah.
They just want to know where we are and how to get there. Right? They're not trying to find, is there a local vodka brand out there? They're not looking for random information. So now it's more about getting in front of them when they're trying to when they already know about us, but they're trying to find us. So it's kind of a little bit different, because it's not about getting the word out. The word's already out at that point, right? And obviously, the channels like Instagram and things like that, and pushing in front is a different story. But
to get back to the topic of branding real quick, I think the bigger issue here is that when they find you, Nick, and
right.
when they get to your establishment, are you living up to the brand that you've created and giving the experience of that local, feeling? And that's where I think, there's a book by Simon Sinek. It's called Start With Your Why. And when we had first done the website, you're right, we were just doing product benefits. So we're made from corn,
right.
We're gluten-free, we're 12 times distilled. And those are important factors, but it's not really the why and the emotional point to get people to really believe in the brand, because other vodkas can claim the same thing. So, and the why for Nick is, we're creating a San Diego experience for you, and it's always going to be local, and it's never going to be anything but. And so then when someone gets there, just to make sure that experience. Now, the problem in hospitality, obviously,
right.
You have the issue of immediate reviews, TripAdvisor, Yelp, and so it's a very, very difficult. You have to have a very well trained staff, and they have to deliver on that promise to the customer at that time, so they get good reviews, which you mostly have. So it's working.
So I have a question, kind of on the shoulders of that a little bit. How do you differentiate your messaging in your B2B sales with your sales team trying to get it into other bars, or when you have a bar come ask you about it, does your messaging change at all from B2B or B2C?
No, our messaging is pretty much exactly the same. The kind of one of the things I learned early on is, and I think this applies to a lot of different aspects of what we do, and it was kind of an awakening for me, is nobody cares. Just nobody cares, right? So when I would go in and pitch, early on I thought, there's a ton of local breweries in this town. If we start pitching a local spirit, all these bars are going to be like, oh, great, yay, let's put it up on the bar, and nobody cares. We started putting batch numbers and bottle numbers on the bottles. Nobody cares, right? It's the things people actually care about. I'm learning it's a different thing, right? So now, finally, after 5 or 6 years, and now that there's more than one distillery in San Diego, now that there are 13 or 14, when they go in and pitch the bars, our messaging is still the same. Hey, look, we have this great product. It's all crafted locally, blah, 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 blah. For bars and restaurants and liquor stores, they kind of just don't care. They're like, well, does anybody else out there know that? And are they going to come ask for it? Because they're not in the business of pitching your brand and telling your story, right? So, for me, it's more about walking in now and going, there are people who care about this, and will come in and ask for it. But as far as the message, it's still the same. It's that, hey, we're different than anything on your shelf. If you care, and there are some places that carry that like us carry a lot of local spirits because they're trying to send that same message too, that hey, we're local and we support local. But it's the same message either way.
Interesting. So, as the name implies, 619 is very, very, very local. So I just want to know how, in terms of getting the word out, when you started, is it more just word of mouth, or what are your plans to scale it across San Diego?
I mean, in the beginning, it was all word of mouth, doing tastings at events like San Diego Food and Wine and things like that. Now it's more about like Les said, having the destination, having someplace where people can come. Because one of the hardest things for our brand is that our niche is doing something that really kind of hasn't been done before, right? So, like, for example, one of our infusions is a rose petal infused vodka, and it's actually infused with real rose petals grown by a farm up in San Marcos. So the hardest part about that is that if you're standing in a liquor store and you're looking at a wall of stuff and you go, oh, that's rose petal vodka, number one, you're going to think it's flavored and colored. You're not going to realize that it's all real and natural. And number two, you're going to go, I don't know if I'm going to like that. It's rose petal. That's kind of weird, right? We just released a pickle vodka a little ways back, and I love pickles, which is why I did it. A bunch of people love pickles, and people still come in and go, is that going to taste any good? And then they try a shot and they go, oh my God, that's amazing. But the same thing, if you're standing there looking at it in a liquor store, you're going, oh, well, it sounds good, but am I going to spend $30 or $32 trying it and hope I like it? So for me, getting the word out now is more about driving traffic in and getting people to come actually try the product, and then from there generating a more, I hate the word, but a more viral response. Like, oh, we were at this place and they do this pickle vodka and you got to try it. And oh, they just released a mandarin orange vodka or whatever. We haven't done that yet, but they've got this and they've got that, and also too,
don't tell your secrets.
Yeah, sorry. Well, two, now part of the thing that has changed for us, and it's not insignificant at all, is the change in the law that allows us to have the physical location and interact with the public, right? Because before this, all of my marketing and branding was the same as everybody else. It was either paying for an ad or doing something where I just tried to build the brand through advertisement, and we don't have the money to do that, right? So now that you can physically come in, and that changes what we can do too, because for me to try and get a bottle on a shelf in a liquor store is really hard, let alone trying to get 6 different flavors. But now that you can come in, I can make 20 different flavors, and if one works and one doesn't, people try them, and so that also now is part of the brand that didn't exist, right? But it's also part of the brand is, oh my God, these guys do a different cool thing every month that nobody else does, right? And we literally have people who've come in and said, hey, can we work with you on creating a cool flavor because we like this and that, and sure, we can do that. So that makes us totally different than anyone else.
So what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out? They don't have, not necessarily in the spirit space, but what are the challenges when you're going to these events, right? Or you buy a stall at a farmer's market or something like that? What are kind of the challenges of doing that and staying on message?
What's the famous line, dude?
Nobody cares.
Well, no. The famous line is, if you want to build a vodka brand and make $1 million, you have to start with $10 million.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people all the time go, hey, it's so cool what you do. I'm like, you can do it too if you've got a bunch of money you want to throw into a pit. I mean, I can help. I can set you up. But yeah, that's the difficult part. Like I said, is it was an awakening for me that just nobody cares. So even when we were doing events, and it's a chicken and egg thing too, right? We're not in Bevmo, we're not in the big stores. So people would come and they would try it and they'd go, "Oh, that's really amazing. Where can I get it? And can I get it from you?" And no, I can't. Up until now, now I can sell it to them if they come to the distillery, but I couldn't before. So they would say, "Where are you?" And I'd say, "Here's a place. Go to the website. It has a list of stores," and that was it. And then they would disappear, and they would walk into Vaughn's and buy whatever other brand was sitting on the shelf, right? So it's a really difficult game. It's the fact that we can open up to the public now, like breweries, is a big differentiator, right? I think that's the reason the breweries made it and so well in San Diego, is because they could just open a place, and even if it was in a strip mall, you could go in, taste the beer, buy it, drink, take growlers, go home. They didn't have to get into liquor stores and bars and stuff to succeed as a brand. Well, up until 2 years ago, I had no choice. That's what I did for the first 4 or 5 years, right? Was try and go down that path, and you just can't without a lot of money. You just can't.
So I want to go back to what you said about this is more like the B2C geared about getting your bottle on the market when it comes, getting your bottle in the liquor store. Because when it comes down to any bottle of liquor, it really comes down to the bottle itself in terms of the branding. Going back to the Sky Vodka issue,
right,
or Sky Vodka example, everyone knows Sky because of the blue bottle. And another brand that I want to bring up is Crystal Skull. Is it Crystal Head Vodka?
Crystal Skull, Crystal Head, yeah.
Yeah. So the vodka itself, it's nothing special. I mean, Again, I'm no vodka connoisseur, but everyone knows Crystal Head because of that awesome bottle. And it's like, okay, you can tell it instantly. Are there any words of advice you have about like designing a bottle in terms of branding? Is there like anything that you can do to like make it just jump off the shelf?
Again, have a lot of money.
Yeah, have a lot of money. I mean, Crystal Head has Dan Aykroyd behind it, so they've got money behind it.
Usually the bottle is not what puts it on the shelf. It's the cost to the retail establishment, what their markup is. I mean, with the exception of maybe Crystal Skull.
Well, when you see Ciroc, it's a unique packaging. But.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back. This is This Week in Marketing on WSRadio.com.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goli, one thing that you have helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians, because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
Did you know the majority of radio listeners are between the ages of 35 and 54, have a household income of more than $100,000, are classified as executives or professionals, and share the show they listen to? Become part of the Peggy Smedley Show to reach listeners looking for information on connected devices through cost-effective radio commercials or segment sponsorships. Contact us at 630-933-0844 for more information or visit PeggySmedleyShow.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
All right, welcome back to This Week in Marketing. We are on our last segment here of branding. It's been really fun, guys. Nick Apostolopoulos and Les Collegian. Les is the CEO and founder of Jacob Tyler, and Nick is also the CEO and founder of 619 Vodka. Really fun. Last segment 4 here is future proofing, right? So, Kevin, you want to dive into it?
Yeah. So I want to talk about just establishing a long-term identity and making sure it holds up. So, Nick, I know you mentioned on your previous website you use terms like you advertise the fact that, everything is harvested locally, we're gluten-free. When it comes to buzzwords like that, I have a very defined customer segment in mind. I think of like gluten-free, that's a total buzzword. Like, I think of like health
totally.
people, and then local people, I think of, people who shop at farmers markets. So let's say you decide you want to target a different segment of people in addition to, the people who shop at farmers markets and whatnot. How do you go about changing the perception of your brand? I don't want to say changing, maybe altering it for a new customer segment without losing those core values.
The funny part is I feel like the things like gluten-free and stuff like that, they sort of found us. I didn't find them. So it wasn't me looking to try and tap into that health conscious market. It was people. That's when people ask questions about the vodka, the two things they ask all the time: what's it made from? Oh, so it's gluten-free. Like, I feel like everybody is about that right now. And if for no other reason, just because they want to seem smart, honestly. I mean, not to be rude about my customer base, but a lot of people come in and go, I mean, we get asked all the time, well, because people just think they know everything. Like, I mean, I get people that tell me, oh, bourbon can't be made outside of Kentucky. I'm like, yes, it can. Yeah. Bourbon's a definition. It's not a geographical thing. It's not like champagne.
Just has to be made in America. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And so people will say, well, if it's made, because we've since switched our base to sugarcane, and people go, well, then it must be a rum. And I'm like, no, it's not a rum. A rum is it's a different process. It's a different thing. So a lot of the whole thing with what's it made from, and so it's gluten-free, and so it's this, and so it's that, is I think just people trying to be smart about stuff. But I do agree that that'll change over time. For me, that stuff found us. We weren't trying to target those markets. It just that's the question people ask every time they come in. So we thought, okay, we'll stick it on the branding, on the marketing, so people can just read it and go, oh yeah, how many times distilled, how many times filtered, even though they don't know what the distinction between those two. They just don't know, right? And the nice part is now with the space, we can kind of educate people, and but at some point, I've come to learn why there is such a thing as frequently asked questions, and I want to just put a giant board up in the distillery and go just point, because people ask the same questions over and over and over.
So how do you collect that information outside of just like understanding, getting the same question over and over again? Is there like a process to understanding what of your feedback because you put gluten-free on the bottle, right? So how did that come about? Just because you kept getting asked it, or is there like a process for what gets on the
bottle? Yeah, it's just because we kept getting asked it. I mean, I feel like that's, we don't have the big money to do focus groups and blah, 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 but that's our, and the nice part about our space now is it's instant market feedback, right? Like, either the flavors we're doing or what we're doing with the branding or whatever. So,
and that's a really good point. I mean, to that point, there was no money to do market research, so we couldn't go out and do a ton to find out what the best approach would be. So now Nick is literally able to use the restaurant and distillery as the research and get that feedback in real time. And then just hold on to it.
Interesting. So, Nick, I'm curious, where do you see 619 Vodka going in a year from now, 5 years, 10 years? What's kind of your plan for the brand identity?
Hopefully not bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully not. The sad part is my plan right now is the same as it was. My 5-year plan is the same as it was 5 years ago, which is just to stay alive and keep trying to grow, right? I mean, we're kind of in a relaunching phase because with this new law change, we kind of moved all of our production to North Park, and so essentially, even though we've been around 5 or 6 years as a brand, this is really starting over for us in a lot of ways. The new website, all this stuff we're talking about. But now that the landscape has changed for the better with this, I'm already kind of looking at possibly a second location and kind of trying to grow the brand, regionally first. But we've already secured distribution throughout California now, and we're looking at a couple of other states. And there are some local brands that are ahead of us. They have more money, Cutwater being that famous example. But hopefully, I think if we can continue to grow, I don't see any reason why we can't be a regional or national brand.
Well, and I'm just going to jump in and say, Nick is a true visionary when it comes to this. And I think, one of the challenges in that growth is any CEO, including me and an entrepreneur. I mean, I wanted my agency to be global right away with 1,000 employees. And you start to, you operate, maybe through more emotion than logical business sense. And I find that Nick sometimes does that, and I try to slow him down a little bit because really the only way to do that and to grow the way he wants is to make sure that foundation is totally precise and exact, and then it'll be much easier to have that model to grow. And it's the same thing we would tell any franchise or any other brand that's trying to grow. You have to have the model done right. But theoretically, I mean, Nick, everything he's trying to do is spot on.
Okay, so from more of a general standpoint, like we said, fads are going to come and go. The market's going to change. Customers are going to change. Things are going to change. So once you nail down that foundation, how do you go about making sure it stays relevant in new trends, whatever they may be?
Well, so if you can't be open to change, you're going to fail. So, and to that point of fads and other things. So, obviously, from a marketing perspective, we want to adapt to the now while keeping the brand essence whole. So a campaign can change, but in essence, the local vibe, the quality of the product will always stay the same.
The values have to stay
yeah, the values have to stay. The core values have to be in place. But so I wouldn't say, I mean, look, good campaigns will stand the test of time. You're in good hands. Just do it. You know those brands. And yeah, they have $50 million to market on an annual basis. So they'll infuse it in your brain. But so we'll work on good campaigns, but ultimately we're going to be open to change based on what the market's looking for. So if pickles are in season, we'll make a pickle vodka and we'll brand it and we'll do a campaign around it. So it just depends on what that is.
So when you go about conveying this to a client or a partner or anything, what are some of the strategies you've used to really convey that what you are going to do is going to hold up in the long run, like in terms of adapting?
Well, yeah, I'd say there's no real proof to say something's going to hold up. I'd say the quality of what we produce at Jacob Tyler from a standpoint of the overall messaging and creative usually will stand the test of time. I mean, we're most of the sites that we launch or campaigns we do are up for a very long period of time before they're modified. But with that being said, I mean, there's no real proof to that. And frankly, we make mistakes. The best way to do that, though, originally would be to do a lot of research to know what the market's looking for in your specific product or service.
Okay, so I just kind of want to give an example. When it comes to doing the research, what are like the key things you look for in terms of like branding in the short term and then going into the long term?
I don't even know I don't know how to really answer to look for it from a research perspective. I mean, so let's say we'll just take Nick. If we had the money, to do research, the first thing we would do demographic information, or we would find out the demographics based on where his location is and what they're looking for. What do they spend? What is their income? What are their habits? Do they have kids? Where are they going for lunch and dinner? How much do they eat out? So there's a lot of questions that we'd ask in advance before making a decision to open a location, and then from there we would look at we would do campaign testing with split A/B, and we would look at messaging and find out where people are actually converting, and then kind of move down those paths. And when we get more information about what they're like.
Awesome.
Love that. The dreaded CRO campaign.
And we all know.
Yeah, we have. We're almost close here. I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining the show. We final note here. Mingle Bells is this Thursday, and really appreciate everybody listening out there. Thank you so much. This is This Week in Marketing on AMA San Diego, And I think that will take us out, guys. Thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Good stuff.
Can you imagine a world without children? A world where children don't play, or dream, or imagine?
At St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, we're working every day to find cures for diseases that strike down children. Because we can't imagine a world without children. Can you?
Finding cures, saving children. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. To learn how you can help, log on to our website, stjude.org.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.